So one of the things I find so exciting about Chinese philosophy is that it tends to be very practical. When we hear the word philosophy, we tend to think of very abstract ideas, the notion of truth, the abstract questions, do I exist, do others exist? Chinese philosophy is very down to earth. It's all about how I can become a better person, how I can relate to those around me better, how I can live a better life.
What elements of Chinese philosophy resonate or should resonate with the current generation?
So I found one of the ideas that resonates very clearly with them is the notion of the self. So this is a generation that tends to have been raised with the idea that they should be looking within, trying to find themselves, find their true selves. And then they're also told once they do find themselves, they should learn to be authentic and sincere to who they really are. Now, that sounds great, except in Chinese philosophy, they would say, actually, what we really are is a mess. We're a mess of different emotions and dispositions and desires. And what we become over time basically depends on how these emotions play out in certain situations. And they also would say a lot of our emotions tend to fall into kind of patterns and ruts of behavior. So we'll kind of relate to different people based not on who we are or who they are, but rather on these patterns and ruts we've fallen into. Now, if they're right about this, they would argue the goal is not to look within and find yourself, because what you're probably finding is a bunch of patterns and ruts. They would say your goal is to break these patterns, to quote Confucius, overcome the self, to try to break these dangerous rat patterns and ruts that we've fallen into.
What would you say Chinese people believe?
That's a great question. I would say it's tough to answer precisely because in China there's a strong view that we kind of make our lives based upon how we live our daily lives, that our lives come out of the things we do on a daily basis, which means that it's not so much what should I believe, it's really how do I live my life, and then what kind of relationships do I build, what sort of a world do I build? So it's not so much about what do I believe, it's on a very practical daily basis, what do I do? Am I living my life well? If so, how do I continue that? If not, how do I begin to really alter that and live my life and hopefully live lives for those around me in ways that will actually be productive?
What do you think Western culture can learn from these ancient Chinese philosophies?
Well, I think we can learn that a lot of our notions, many of our very most cherished notions, are perhaps dangerous and even restrictive. So the notion that we have some true self that I should always be finding and trying to be sincere and authentic to, maybe that actually limits us to what we happen to be right now. The idea that I should do whatever I feel like doing, that sounds very liberatory, but maybe whatever I feel like doing are just based upon patterns and ruts I've fallen into. And therefore, maybe we should do things like rituals that actually break us from our standard ways of being and open up new possibilities. So it challenges a lot of our assumptions, but I think in ways that are very, very exciting.